Hi, everyone. My name is Pukhraj, as Min already shared. When I was invited here to talk about conscious entrepreneurship, it was something that I felt was deeply personal, and I didn't know how it would make sense to any of you because my journey is mine, and I'm sure all of you are on your own journey trying to figure out how you want to set up your businesses, what kind of impact you want to have. So I decided that I'm going to share a tool that has helped me quite a lot over the last 3 years. Unlike Katie, I'm a very young entrepreneur. I just started 3 years ago, in the pandemic actually, which might be true for some of you as well. So I'm still learning, but there are certain things that have helped me. And one of the biggest things or tools that I feel like all of us as business owners need to reflect on is who you are in your truest authenticity. And so in today's talk, I want you to reflect on your authentic code. For those of you who think that's too hippie, you don't know what that means. It's essentially your core essence, who you are as a person, what values you have, what drives you, what kind of impact you want to have, what kind of people you spend time with. You being here for a conscious entrepreneurs event already means that we are aligned in values. But at the same time, I think it's important to kind of dig deeper and think about, are you running a business from a place of ego or from a place of your authentic code? So while I share my story today, maybe you can guess what my authentic code is, because you will soon find out. I used to be a teacher, so I will do a little quiz to see who was listening and if you can guess my authentic code, but also think about your authentic code and think about the kind of business you want to run and is it aligned to who you want to be in this planet. Okay, so I will go way back. Ooh, I hope. Is my hair? I can hear it myself. Sorry about that. I will take you back to 2010, which is when I started my professional career. I am from India. I guess you can guess it from the name of my brand. It's called Moi Namaste. But I started my journey as a teacher in Mumbai, in the impoverished communities, the slums of the city, working with children who were in 4th and 5th grades. I was a class teacher of 40 students. If any of you are a Finnish class teacher, I think you can't imagine that many kids in one class, but it's pretty normal in India. And I want to start here because this is where my commitment to impact, my commitment to community started. When you have kids in your class who should be speaking sentences, full sentences, and here you are teaching them phonics, teaching them alphabets, teaching them basic addition, you start to lose hope. But then you take the strength in the reality of the context and you build big dreams that are not just yours, but are collective dreams. So me wanting to make an impact in the lives of others has been my driving force from 2010, which is a long time. Of course, I have moved industries quite a lot, and you'll see the process, but I am a firm believer that education, that personal growth is what drives not just an individual, but society at large. And I want to stay in that space, even though I now work in a fashion brand. So while I worked in this NGO in India, I stayed back another 3 years. After doing 2 years of teaching fellowship, I stayed as a teacher trainer, a program manager, and a community organizer. And that commitment to education is what brought me to Finland. So if you're Finnish, people always ask, why are you here? Like, why Finland? And it's because of education. I wanted to understand what is this Finnish education system, which is considered one of the best in the world, really rooted in equity, really rooted in student impact. And that was something that, as you kind of already heard, really important to me. So I went to Jyväskylä. These are some of my classmates. As you can see, it was a very international class. We had one Finnish student, even though I was in a Finnish university. But this was an important part of my journey because this was the first time I was in a room full of diverse opinions. someone, how they look at education from China versus India versus USA versus Mexico is deeply different because we're all coming in with our own stories, with our own understanding of what impact means. And this was an opportunity for me to not just open my heart and become friends with people of diverse opinions, but also start thinking about what larger global impact means and what are challenges that all of us face, even though we live in very different corners of the world. And that work also brought me to Helsinki, where I started working as a head of community in an education nonprofit, where I was, again, community organizing, education innovators from around the world. My job was for all of us to find our commonalities rather than differences, and then create collective visions for the kind of work we want to do within the education sector. So now you must be wondering, Minna's talked a lot about fashion. I don't know why I'm talking so much about education. I wanted to start there because that's the root of who I am. I care about people, I care about impact, I care about my growth, but also collective growth. And while I was in this job in Helsinki, I really started to be homesick. I don't know how many of you are foreigners, but Finland can be a little hard sometimes. And because of the work I had done at grassroots level in India, I started to feel really disaligned to what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be, and the kind of work I was doing. I had a fancy, office in Punawari where I was working and talking about ed tech, and I kept thinking about the kids I worked in the slums, and I just didn't know how to reach them and how to be part of their lives. So this is where I decided that, okay, if I can't work with kids, let's start working with the next best stakeholders in the kids' lives, which are their mothers. I'm sorry about my hair. This is a picture from a community of fisher women in Cuddalore in the south of India, who I first started working with. They were deeply impacted by the tsunami that happened, and their entire fishing communities, fishing villages were destroyed. And one of my friends, who was also a teacher, she started a women's organization trying to train and provide employment opportunities to mothers. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. First of all, you can find nothing Indian in Finland unless it's butter chicken or palak paneer, and that's great, but I want to see more of my culture here. But then I also felt like this is a great way to bring a piece of my home to my new home, Finland. I wanted to see what I can do with these women that will not just impact my life, because now I have India and Finland, but also their lives in terms of creating sustainable, dignified livelihood opportunities. And that is how I got into fashion. So Moyameste is my company, and kind of the big motto, tagline, vision statement, mission statement, you can call it whatever, is to bridge boundaries through craft, fashion, and sisterhood. Because one, entrepreneurship is a lonely place to be. Being an expat in a country is a lonely place to be. Working in impact is a lonely place to be. But when you come together, there's so much more you can do and so many more beautiful stories you can tell, and so much bigger impact that you can make. So I decided to jump right in and start working on a brand where we create clothes that are worn in Finland and for people whose lives are in Western communities, but also has deep impact in India. So before I jump into the kind of impact we've made, I just want to talk about why I chose these fields, why I chose fashion, why I chose crafts, and why I decided to focus on sisterhood. So one of the things that not many people know, India is home to 7 million artisans, which make 40% of the global artisanal workforce. And the handicraft industry is worth $400 billion US, but only 2% of that revenue comes back to artisans in India. And when I heard that number, I was like, wait, what? We do so much work, and we don't get any benefit or no economic or training benefits. Majority of this community is also women. So there's deep inequity within the craft industry of the kind of economic opportunities that women face if they are craft community stakeholders. A lot of the crafts in India, as you all know, India is a really, really, really old country. It has history and craft heritage from thousands of years ago. And because of, call it fast fashion or mass production, a lot of these crafts are on the verge of extinction. And a lot of the second generation craft community members don't want to continue in the work because of lack of opportunities and growth. They would rather work in a call center for McDonald's than continue to be block printers. So this was something that deeply bothered me, because when you move out of your home country, you become even more patriotic. I don't know if you feel that way, I do. So I was like, no, we can't lose all this beautiful heritage that we have, and we need to do something about it. An industry which is very closely related or connected to the craft industry in India is the fashion industry. So India is the second largest textile exporter in the world, but at the same time, fashion industry as a whole is considered to be the second largest, most polluting industry, with a lot of human rights violations against women documented. If you are interested in sustainable fashion, I'm sure you've heard of the Fashion Revolution movement. Next month is the 10-year anniversary of the Rana Plaza incident, where a clothing factory, a garment-making factory, fell apart, killing thousands of people. And the problem was they couldn't stop production because of the urgent pressure from these Western brands that made things cheaply in countries like India and in Bangladesh. So that was, again, something that really bothered me. And of course, there's so much waste and overproduction in the fashion industry that I felt like this is a nice part, or, well, not nice, but a needed part of the craft and fashion intersection that I wanted to work at. And then finally, I decided to work in support sisterhood, is because, one, I had started working with a lot of mothers. I realized that when you empower mothers, you empower entire communities, but also look at this room, there are majority women. I feel like women like to work in a way that deepens their impact. They're very value-driven, and that was all things that I wanted. These are all things I want to surround myself in. So we decided that we'll work with women-led, women-benefiting organizations, both brands as well as artisan collectives. And so to just surmise what I actually do, I run a one-stop shop for ethically made in India. We mostly focus on fashion, but I started it as a love letter, sharing with Finland the beauty of my home, which is India. But now our vision is to be the go-to platform for all things artisanal, all things ethical and made in India. And over the last 3 years, we have been able to really deep dive into what we mean by that and how we want to work. So we have created a people and planet positive framework. When I say people and planet positive, it really means something. So when we look at the people impact, we want transparency in the supply chain, we want good wages and working conditions which are fair, equal, as well as a deep focus on women empowerment. Like, these are the kind of artisan collectives as well as brands that we want to work with. When we look at our impact on the planet, we're looking at our carbon footprint, because yes, everything is coming from India, and that is something I get asked all the time. It's like, oh, I prefer buying things that are made in Europe, but there are things made outside of Europe all the time. You know it or you don't know it. And so rather than ignoring that part of the global economy, how do we make it better? And I feel like that's my intention with working in India, apart from being Indian. But also we use sustainable materials. We do a lot of upcycling, which you'll find out a little bit soon. And then also, ultimately, we're a digital platform. So thinking about responsible e-commerce and as well as shipping are kind of pillars that we think about before we produce anything or before we collaborate with anyone. And so in the last 3 years, there's no one else but me running, growing Moi Namaste. I've had a lot of support from the wonderful women like Minna and all the other ladies who are here, who are part of the CEC network. But at the end of the day, our goal is a lot bigger. We want to impact 100,000 women by 2030. We are, at this point, 300 plus. Hopefully, as the team grows, as the organization grows, we're able to impact more. But I'm very proud of the women organizations, the social enterprises I've had the chance to connect with. We now work with 14 plus women benefiting organizations, impact the lives of 300 plus women, and 100 plus traditional craftspeople. I've distributed that because a lot of crafts in India are done by men, and not everything is done by women. So just to kind of clarify that. And of course, we've also grown our community in Finland, found people who like color, who like patterns, who like sustainability, and I guess a few of them also like India. So very excited that our community is slowly growing. And when it comes to planet positive, we also understood that how deeply polluting the fashion industry is. So we decided that we'll only work with textiles that exist. This jacket that I'm wearing today is an old bed cover that's all hand embroidered. These are the ways women from villages in India earn livelihood without having to leave their village. So we find these blankets, these bed covers, and then upcycle them into jackets. So that way, we have rescued, repurposed, and transformed nearly 2,000 meters of fabric already and turned them into ethical and sustainable fashion. And I know this is not the best impact measure, but we also plant trees to slightly counter the carbon footprint that we have also flying in things from India to Finland. Okay, I think I've talked a lot. Before I go to the next slide, let's do that little quiz I was talking about. Just hearing my story so far, can any of you identify what my authentic code might be? Any words that come through in the presentation? Education. I guess I talked too much about education, less about fashion. Connection to my roots. Relearning. Community. Sustainability. One more. I'm very good at the teacher pause. I can wait. Wanting to make a difference. Perfect. So this is what my authentic code is. A few of you already said it. Not exact words, but maybe the same intention. I do care deeply about community, building my community both in India and in Finland, about growth, my growth as well as collective growth, impact so that we're able to live lives that are, that is something we're proud of, and of course beauty. When I walked in, someone said, "You're always the most colorful person in the room," and I guess I am. As you can see from the pictures as well, I just love people, I love colors, I love things that make me believe in the beauty of the world. So it's something that I always look for and go after. So it is a weird but an important, authentic code of mine. And just if you wanted clarification of how it shows up at work, it shows up in the artisanal communities that we work with in India. It shows up in the community of people who we are creating who care about impact-based fashion. It shows up as impact measures as well as the artisan fund that we create where we save 10% of our annual profits for community development and training opportunities for women garment makers. The growth aspect of it is creating the people and planet positive framework and making it, again, like Katie, making it publicly available so people can use it and get inspired by it and then do similar work. And of course, we're also creating a blog, which would be an open resource bank for anyone interested in sustainable and ethical fashion. And then, of course, beauty. We want to create beautiful clothes that women love, feel confident in, and hopefully, as we grow, work towards gender as well as size inclusivity in fashion. So that's all that I have to say. But before I close, I think the question to leave you with is, how does your authentic code show up in your business as well as in your values as a business owner? Because once you identify that, the work becomes easy, not less lonely, but easy. And with that authentic code, articulated, you'll also start to attract beautiful people who support you on that journey. So with that, thank you very much for listening. You can find me on moi.namaste or Pukhraj Ranjan on social media, and that's also my email address. And if you become my friend, I might pull you in for a photo shoot because you can see it on the screen. So yeah, thank you very much for listening.